Hey everyone! Today, we're diving into a pretty scary evolution in cybercrime. See, a whole new generation of malware is popping up, and it's built with a programming language that makes it faster, way more versatile, and a whole lot harder to catch. Let's get right into it.
So just think about this for a second. What if a cybercriminal could code one single piece of malware, and then, with just a few tiny tweaks, use it to attack a Windows PC, a Linux server, maybe even a Mac? Well, that is the powerful and frankly dangerous new reality we're going to explore. And look, this isn't just about some single new virus. What we're witnessing here is a fundamental shift in the actual tools that cybercriminals are using. It's something that's changing the entire game for both the attackers and, of course, the defenders. For, decades, malware was pretty much always built using languages from what you could call the old guard, like C and C++. Now, they're super powerful, but they can be a bit clunky. But now, threat actors are moving over to the new guard, these modern languages like Go, Nim, and the big one we're focusing on, Rust. And these aren't just versatile, they are incredibly fast and memory safe, which basically means the malware they create is more reliable and way less likely to just crash.
So, why make the switch? Well, it all boils down to efficiency. With a language like Rust, a developer can write their malicious code just once and then compile it to run on totally different operating systems. Think Windows and Linux, with almost no changes. This just blows the doors wide open on their potential pool of victims. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this threat, let's look at a prime example. I want you to meet a piece of malware that perfectly shows off this new trend: Luca Stealer. Luca Stealer is a really nasty piece of work. It's designed to do exactly what its name says: steal information from infected computers. But the thing that makes it a true landmark case for security researchers is that it's built entirely in Rust. It's one of the clearest signals we've gotten that this language is officially being weaponized. But this is where the story gets really weird. The person who created Luca Stealer didn't just use it in the shadows. Nope. They published the entire source code for absolutely anyone to see. And as you can probably guess, this is a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, it's amazing for security researchers, right? They get this incredible chance to take the code apart and figure out how to build defenses. But on the other hand, it gives less skilled criminals a free, ready-to-use template for their own attacks. Not good. You might be thinking, great, they have the code, problem solved. But studying this code is nowhere near as simple as it sounds. In fact, analyzing malware written in Rust is a huge challenge for cybersecurity experts. Think of it like a locked room mystery, but for digital forensics. When the investigators pull out their standard tools to analyze a Rust program, the clues just don't add up. The tools get completely and utterly confused. So let me give you a simplified reason why. Traditional programs, like those in C, use something called null-terminated strings. The easiest way to think about it is that every sentence ends with a period. The tools know exactly where one piece of text stops. Simple. But Rust strings, they don't have that. It's like trying to read a whole page of text with no periods at all. Where does one thought end and the next begin? And the direct result of that? The powerful reverse engineering tools that analysts depend on, tools like Ghidra, they look at this data and they just can't make sense of it. They have no idea where one thing ends and the next begins. So they misinterpret everything, showing this jumbled, overlapping mess of information that sends investigators down a total dead end. Oh, and the fun doesn't stop there. Just finding the main function, the actual starting point of the malware's logic, is a complete nightmare. It's like a maze. Analysts can't just jump to the beginning. They have to trace this ridiculously complex path of setup functions just to figure out where the malicious code actually kicks off. But, for every new lock, someone's out there forging a new key. The cybersecurity community, they haven't just thrown up their hands in defeat. They've developed some seriously clever, new ways to pick the lock on these Rust-based threats. And this quote really just nails it. As the attackers get smarter and adopt new tools, the defenders have literally no choice but to evolve even faster, coming up with entirely new ways to deconstruct these programs and fight back. So how do they do it? Well, the solution is just brilliant. Instead of trying to read that jumbled mess of code directly, they've started, in a sense, dusting for prints. They're looking for forensic clues left behind not by the malware author, but by the very tools that were used to create the malware in the first place.
These digital fingerprints are all sorts of artifacts that get embedded deep inside the final program. We're talking about things like the names of external libraries. In the Rust world, they're called crates that the malware uses, and even leftover debugging information from when the code was compiled. And these clues, they can be incredibly revealing. They might tell an analyst that the malware uses a library called request to make web requests. But even crazier, sometimes a file path left in that debug data can leak the actual username of the developer on their own computer. Talk about a critical mistake. And all of this leads right to the smoking gun. With these clues, analysts can create what are called indicators of compromise, or IOCs. These are basically unique signatures, like the file's specific hash or certain text strings like cargo registry, that antivirus software can use to say, aha, that's it, and block the malware cold.
So what's the big picture here? What does this all mean? Well, the case of Luca Stealer isn't just one story. It's a single battle in a much, much larger and ongoing war, the cybersecurity arms race.
It's this constant cat-and-mouse game. Cybercriminals build a better lock, like malware written in Rust. And then, in response, cybersecurity pros have to engineer a better key, like these new analysis techniques. It's a cycle that just never stops.
So the real takeaway here is that this is always evolving. Attackers will constantly adopt new tools to get better at what they do, and that forces defenders to be just as innovative and just as creative to keep us all safe. And why should this matter to you? Because the rise of cross-platform malware means the lines between our different systems are getting blurry. A threat that used to only target, say, Windows servers could now be easily adapted to attack so many other devices, which expands the threat landscape for every single one of us. And that leaves us with a really critical question for the future. As our own technology keeps advancing and criminals keep finding new ways to exploit it, what's the next big challenge going to be? And how will the front lines of cyber defense have to evolve yet again to meet it?